Welcome back to the Pettit National Ice Center. Continuing coverage of the speed skating Olympic trials. The 500 meters for women continues. Bonnie Blair, seems like she sets a track record every time she takes the ice.
Well, it's a new facility. That helps, too.
And I'm telling you what, when we were here a few years ago for the trials, it was outside. It was pretty bitter. And folks, overnight, the wind chill was like 45 below zero. So we are very grateful to be inside for the trials this time around.
And
Bonnie,
the skaters are too, believe me.
Yes, indeed. Bonnie's going to be matched with Kristen Talbot. Of course, you heard Nicole Watson talking to her about what's coming up in her life as she donates bone marrow to her brother Jason, who is suffering from aplastic anemia. If Kristen does make the team, she hopes to be in good enough physical shape to compete in Hamar. And right now she's in 4th place. This is a very, very important race if she wants to make this Olympic team at 500 meters. She'll be on the inside, Bonnie Blair on the outside.
This is a good pair. Kristen has been consistently about 1 second behind Bonnie. She knows that if she can just go with her stride for stride down this 100 meters, she's got a good shot at maintaining that.
Not an easy thing to do when you're racing against the queen of the sport, and that's Bonnie Blair.
Well, Bonnie makes it look so easy. Kristen's coming from the inside now to the outside. She's crossing just ahead of Bonnie. Bonnie's right even with her now. So Kristen knows she's got a lot of work to do here on this last outer turn to keep within that 1 second time.
Folks here in West Dallas know all about the story of Kristen Talbot. They stand and encourage her and Bonnie Blair as Bonnie heads to the line. And check the clock, 39.77, a 41.79 for Kristen Talbot. I don't know if that's going to change her standing in the top 4. We still have other skaters still to come who will have a say in how they finish 1 through 4. But to nobody's surprise, it is Bonnie Blair showing the way in this heat.
Well, like I said, coming down the 100, Kristen wanted to stay even with Bonnie. That's hard to do because Bonnie's consistently skating 100 meters in 10 seconds, 10 something, and Kristen hasn't done that consistently. So you can see here down the home stretch, Bonnie's putting it on the speed, and Kristen's just trying to keep that gap, and that looks like a lot, but when you come down to measuring it in hundredths of a second, it's really not that far.
Bonnie Blair once again clocking a time in the 39-second range, again breaking 40. Of course, nobody else in the field through 3 heats has broken the 41-second barrier. So that really tells you a lot about the superiority of Bonnie Blair in this sport. She's very popular here in West Dallas and very popular worldwide for that matter, Leah.
Well, Bonnie would really like to be the first woman to break 39 seconds in the 500 meter. And I think because the World Sprint Championships coming up in Calgary, that's indoor, and the Olympics in Norway, that's going to be indoor, she's got a shot at doing it.
How fast can one woman go in your estimation? I mean, we've seen Dan Jansen already on the men's side break the 36-second barrier, the first man to ever do that. How low can we see a woman go?
Well, the women's times have also been coming down relatively in proportion to the men. Bonnie, everyone has thought, should have broken it by now, so we're hoping that in Norway she'll do it.
Our next meet, Maura DeAndrea on the inside, Mary Brophy on the outside. They stood 7th and 8th after the first 3 heats, so it's really going to take a monumental effort from these two to put themselves into contention for a spot.
Well, Maura actually has the talent and the skill, as you can see here now on the inner. She's taking that turn very nicely. Look at this technique of Maura. She's going to the from the inner to the outer. She's very smooth. She just hasn't had that little bit of quickness in the 500 to break into the top 4.
Maura DeAndrea and Mary Brophy in this heat of the women's 500 meters.
Maura could really use this race if she could throw in a good one, and I'm afraid right now that her time isn't going to be good enough.
Now it's 42 seconds plus for both skaters, and that's not going to cut it as far as making the top 4 in the women's 500 meters. But the next 2 both have a chance.
Well, 4th, 5th, and 6th, we're all within 0.2 of a second of each other. And in a 500 meter, all you have to do is blink, and that's 0.2 of a second. As you see Maura, she doesn't really have the drive. When you see a real powerful skater like Bonnie Blair, their knees come through strong, and that power comes right off the hip. Maura's kind of just going down that last 100, exhausted. Not good enough.
So the drama continues in the women's 500. We know Bonnie Blair and Peggy Clasen and Michelle Kline, for that matter, will more than likely qualify in the 500. We're going to see Michelle skate in just a moment. But there's still a battle for that final spot. And we're going to see Chantal Bailey And Chantel, I don't think she's stopped smiling since qualifying for the Olympic team in the 1,500 meters, the first time she's ever qualified for a U.S. team. She's 28 years old, and since the age of 5 has been dreaming of making a U.S. Olympic team, and started out as a figure skater and has made the transition successfully.
And she's moved around a lot. She's originally from Champaign, Illinois. She calls Boulder, Colorado now her home. But she told me yesterday that that was the confidence boost that she needed when she knew she qualified for the 1,500. Look at, she's still got that smile on her face.
When the gun goes off, she may get serious about this thing. There is Chantel Bailey.
I think she's just going to skate now on her emotions, and that's going to carry her about 3 inches above the ice all the way around.
There has to be a huge weight lifted off her shoulders knowing she's going to Norway. There's no question.
Oh, sure, but as a competitor, you want to skate every event you can qualify for. So don't give up on her yet. She hasn't finished this race.
She was 5th overall after 3 heats. Michelle Kline, and on the outside, there you see her, was 3rd overall. And they wait for the gun in the final heat of the women's 500 meters.
Michelle has had a pretty decent year. Now that was a false start. I didn't quite see who moved first, but you have to sit perfectly still. If you even flinch, the starter can call you back.
Tells you a little bit of something about the nerves that are going on at this point. I mean, both of these skaters will be in the Olympics, but as you said, you want to compete in as many events as you possibly can, and a little edgy at the start, so they'll go back and try it again.
Well, they've always said that the 500-meter specialists are much like racehorses because they get real jittery at the start. So any little thing can set you off, and if you get one false start, then you've really got to concentrate and sit at that line.
But in your career, you never false start.
Oh, no. I was notorious for false starting, and I think maybe I had a bad reputation for that. But these skaters now, it's not so critical. This is the Olympic trials. They still want to give everyone a chance.
The bad thing about that, however, you only get that one false start. So if you really need to clock a great time, you know you're going to be a little slow off the line because you can't afford to jump the gun again.
That's right. So now you've got to concentrate. You've got to sit still, wait for the gun. As we saw yesterday, though, there were some skaters who false started, were thrown out of the competition, and were allowed to reskate. But that's still not what you want. You want to go head-to-head, just like these two girls are doing.
Chantel Bailey on the inside. Michelle Kline with the blue glasses is on the outside. They will cross over on the back stretch as they come out of this first corner.
And Michelle will be looking at Chantel, so she'll be having that focal point to chase. And you can see she's using her arms to really chase Chantel as she comes from the outside to the inside. Chantel comes here on the outside track now. Coming down the last 100, you can expect that Chantel is really going to want to chase Michelle. She doesn't want any more little hundredths of a second to pass between the two of them.
They head for the line, almost neck and neck. And a time of 41.64 for Michelle Kline, 41.89 for Chantel Bailey as they compete for spots in the 500 on the women's side.
And that crossover, I think, for Chantel was a little bit startling. She wanted to have a little more gap between her and Michelle so that she could be in the lead coming out on the last 100. As Chantel went to the outside track, she wasn't in the position that she wanted to be. You can see she's a little more upright. She tries to get back on the blocks, and as she comes out of the final turn towards that last 100 meters, she's not quite in the position she wants to be. She's just too far behind Michelle. And you can see both of them with their arms swinging strong so that they can get that maximum leg push as they go across that finish line.
Two Olympic hopefuls, Chantel Bailey and Michelle Kline, head-to-head in the women's 500. And for Michelle Kline, a top 3 finish behind Bonnie Blair and Peggy Clasen, so she qualifies for the Olympics at 500 meters. And the great part of this story, Kristen Talbot has made it, folks. She qualifies for Lillehammer and the Winter Olympic Games, finishing 4th in the women's 500. That one's for Jason, I'll tell you that, folks. Bonnie Blair, again, the queen of speed skating in this country. She's standing by with Nicole Watson. Nicole?
Thanks, Ernie. Well, an Olympian once again, Bonnie Blair. You know, our analyst, Leah, keeps talking about the fact that you're in a class by yourself. What motivates you?
I think the clock mostly, and, you know, just the thrill of still competing and just being on the ice. I still just really love what I'm doing.
Sprint championships just 2 weeks before the Olympic Games. Are you on course right now, and what do you expect to do there?
Well, things are going pretty well for me so far. We'll have a World Cup actually right before our World Championships, and for me those are going to be 2 good tune-ups for the Olympic Games. It'll give you an idea of where you're standing against everybody else. I won't have competed against most of the other countries, for almost a month and a half, so it's going to be a real guiding base for me to see where I am.
Talking about guiding bases, most athletes usually do their training in segments. What happens during the regular season and then right before an Olympic Games? Are you on target?
Yeah, right here I've been trying to train through our trials, not necessarily peaking for them and then just having one peak for the Olympic Games, and then hopefully that can carry me on. But, especially here, my times have been really well. I think they've gone exactly where I wanted them to, and considering I'm still trying to train hard, it's perfect for me right now. So I'm really looking forward to the next couple of weeks and, some more racing.
Okay, now a 4-time Olympian, Bonnie Blair, we wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you very much.
The Queen continues her reign in speed skating in the United States. And when we come back, the men's 500, Dan Jansen and the rest just ahead.